The Wii U is definitely the red-headed stepchild of the Nintendo family, and he shares a room with his older brother, Virtual Boy. They probably have a bunk bed or something. Is the Wii U still worth playing today? Not really, but here are 10 co-op games you can play with your dumbass of a stepbrother. Shadow Puppeteer. This is an action puzzle platform game, and it can be played with 2-player co-op. This is a game you could play single player, where you control both the protagonist as well as its shadow, or you could play it in co-op, where you split up the duties between 2 players. Although this is not a Wii U exclusive, it originally came out on the PC. The Wii U is the only console that this game has been released for, as of today. This is one of those co-op games that just did not get enough attention. And when talking about the Wii U as a console, that's kind of the common theme here. It's a console that went under a lot of people's radar. This isn't the best puzzle platformer around, but it's one that not many people talk about. So if you missed it, like I did back in the day, why don't you go back and revisit it? I think it's worth a shot. Runbow is a game that originally came out exclusively on the Wii U. It's since been ported to just about every console as well as the PC, but when it first came out on the Wii U, it was a pretty unique experience. It's a 2D platformer that involves jumping and maneuvering around various colorful levels as you race to get to the finish. But what made this game stand out is that you could play it with up to 9 players locally. You could play it cooperatively or competitively. They also included a number of characters from notable indie games such as Guacamelee, SteamWorld Dig, Shovel Knight, and Hyper Light Drifter. This is still an excellent game, and just the fact that you could play it with 9 players makes it worth revisiting. Wonderful 101 is another game that came out originally for the Wii U. And yes, it has since been ported to the Nintendo Switch, as well as other modern platforms as well. But it's still worth trying on the Wii U because you could play it in 5-player co-op, with 1 player using the gamepad. In Wonderful 101, players control a horde of superheroes from a top-down viewpoint, and you can turn them into various objects. As the levels progress, players must explore each stage to find and rescue citizens, and have them join your team. The more heroes that you gather, the more powerful you become. This is another pretty unique game. New Super Mario U is another game that came out originally on the Wii U, and it's since been ported to the Nintendo Switch. This might not be the best in the series, but it still has some pretty solid 2D platforming. And unlike the Nintendo Switch version, you could play this version in 5-player co-op, where 1 player is using the gamepad, and they can control some of the environment to either help players get through the levels or to sabotage them. As much as I love the new Super Mario Bros. Games, and I was really excited when they first came out, they began to get a little bit boring and generic, especially when compared to Mario Wonder. That game just did everything right and is a lot more creative. That being said, I still think New Super Mario Bros. U is worth trying out. Yoshi's Woolly World is a 2D Yoshi platformer, and this is still stuck on the Wii U. So if you're looking for a reason to pick up the Wii U, this is definitely one of the main reasons. But if you're a more advanced gamer, this probably isn't going to be a challenging experience for you. But if you want to play a game with your kid or less skilled partner, definitely give this one a try. The visuals are really well done. Everything has that realistic yarn texture look. If you played Yoshi's Story or Yoshi's Island, this has the same kind of gameplay. You can do the flutter jump, you can transform into various different vehicles, and you're able to throw your eggs to attack the enemies. But of course, what makes this one stand out is the 2-player co-op. This is the first in the Yoshi series that allowed you to play with a partner. And the only other one is Yoshi's Crafted World, which came out on the Switch. I don't know which one is better, but they're both solid. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, like a lot of the games on this list, originally came out on the Wii U. It's a sequel to Donkey Kong Country Returns, which was on the Nintendo Wii. A lot of people prefer this game, as you're able to play as more characters. Dixie Kong, as well as Cranky Kong, have been added to the mix. There's a lot of creativity in the levels, the platforming is solid, it's very colorful, and the music is enjoyable as well. I love both games, but this one might be a little bit easier. When it comes to 2D platformers, Nintendo really does it the best, and this is another great addition to the genre. Affordable Space Adventure is another game that's stuck on the Wii U. This one came out exclusively on the eShop. When the Wii U first came out, the gamepad seemed like it was just a gimmick. A lot of games just kind of added gamepad functionality as an afterthought and didn't really build games around that experience. But this is one of the few games that felt like the gamepad functionality actually improved the experience. You're able to play this with up to 3 players in local co-op. The object of the game is to control the ship and maneuver yourself through each level, with each player controlling a different part of the ship. One player controls the jets, another player controls aiming and moving around, and the player on the gamepad is able to adjust the speed and other controls by using the touchpad. It's a really unique feature. This is definitely a hidden gem, and when I think of experiences that are unique to the Wii U, this is probably my go-to example. And I can't think of many other games that utilize the gamepad in a more creative and fun way. So if you're looking for a reason to pick up the Wii U, Affordable Space Adventures is definitely one of the top reasons. Shovel Knight is really one of the best retro-themed 8-bit style indie games in recent memory, and it's been ported to basically every console that you could possibly think of. But it was originally the Wii U version that had an exclusive co-op feature that has since been ported to other platforms as well, but it first came out exclusively for the Wii U. And in order to do this, you had to get the Shovel Knight amiibo, place it onto the gamepad, and it unlocked a secret co-op mode. When you think of games that try to replicate the 8-bit NES style of gameplay, there's not many that are better than Shovel Knight. It just did everything right. The visuals, the music, and the solid gameplay is a mix between Mega Man and DuckTales, and being able to play this in 2-player co-op just made it even more enjoyable. Although you do have to split up your health, and if one of you dies, you're able to come back, but it takes part of your partner's health. So it does require a bit of communication and teamwork. That's what co-op gameplay is all about, right? Shovel Knight isn't necessarily one of the main reasons to get a Wii U at this point, but back in the day, this was the only way that you could play it in co-op. So I always associate Shovel Knight with the Wii U for that reason. Let's talk about Star Fox Zero. When this game came out, it was kind of a controversial game. It had pretty mixed reviews, and a lot of people criticized the awkward control system. This game is still exclusive to the Wii U, and in my opinion, it's one of the best Wii U games. And that's specifically because of the co-op mode. Like I said, the controls were pretty difficult to master, but I feel like a lot of people that criticize the controls never had the opportunity to play it in 2-player co-op. And I think that's really where this game shines. You're now able to split up the tasks of flying and maneuvering with 2 different players. When you played it in single player, you had to use the gyroscope to move and aim, as well as using the thumbsticks, and it was kind of like a patting your head and rubbing your stomach multitasking project. But when you can split that up with a second player, now one player controls all of the shooting and the other player controls all of the maneuvering of the ship, and it also provides extra firepower. This definitely simplifies things and makes it a much more enjoyable and streamlined experience. So if you didn't like Star Fox Zero when you first tried it, at least try it in co-op and see if that changes your mind. Before we get to number 1, I wanted to talk about a new game that came out exclusively for the Wii U called Silver Falls Undertakers. This is a game that was independently made specifically for the Wii U. It has a really interesting multiplayer mode called Survive This or Survive Versus mode, something like that. But it's a survival mode that can be played with up to 4 players. This is another example of really great usage of the Wii U gamepad, where 4 players can play with Wiimotes on the TV, and you work together to try to survive as long as possible. And then the 5th player plays on the gamepad, and when you see on the gamepad, it looks like an Atari 2600 game. The objective for this player is to take out all 4 of the other players, and I've just found this to be a really creative experience. And it's just using the gamepad in a creative way. And that was kind of the problem when it came to the Wii U, is the gamepad had so much potential and it was highly underutilized. Many games just didn't really know what to do with it, but this one was done really well. So I just wanted to briefly mention it, and it just came out in 2023, so maybe you didn't know about it. The number 1 co-op game on the Wii U is Mario 3D World. And of course, this has already been ported to the Nintendo Switch, but it first came out on the Wii U. And to this day, this is one of the best co-op Mario experiences to ever exist. It introduces the new cat power-up, which has already become a fan favorite. It's definitely one of my favorite upgrades. Princess Peach has been added to the mix again. This is the game that got my daughter really excited about video games, and it started her obsession with Princess Peach. So I've played countless hours of this on the Nintendo Switch with my daughter, so the game will always have a special place in my heart. It's not perfect in co-op, as sometimes the camera just doesn't really know who to follow, especially when you're playing with a little kid, as they could just fall to their death and the camera could swiftly move towards them, and then the other player will go into a bubble and you're both kind of screwed. But if you're able to work together, it's a really satisfying experience. And for that reason, Mario 3D World, I think, is the best co-op game on the Nintendo Wii U. There are, of course, some other games that I didn't mention. I tried to cover games that were mostly unique experiences for the system, or at least originated on the Wii U. What are some of your favorite co-op games on the Wii U? What games did I miss? And if there are any other co-op hidden gems that are stuck on the Wii U, tell me about them in the comments. And thank you for watching.